Welcome back to Harbour Unboxed. Today, I'm revisiting the battle between two popular current generation GPUs, the Radeon RX 5700 XT, and then of course the GeForce RTX 2060 Super. And I'm doing this because, well, why not? Actually, quite a few of you have requested this update for some time now, and since we are in a bit of a quiet period right now, I thought we might as well do it. No better time than the present. So all the data in this video has been gathered over the past few days using the latest drivers, the latest game versions, so it's all super fresh. It's actually been a little over half a year since I last compared these two head-to-head in a wide range of games, and that time we have received a number of driver updates, game updates, and even a few new games. In terms of pricing though, nothing has really changed. The 2060 Super can still be had for the $400 US MSRP, though to be fair, most are priced at more like $420 US or more. And at the time of filming, there is just a single model selling at the MSRP on Newegg.com, for example. The 5700 XT, which also comes in at a $400 US MSRP, can be had for less than that right now, with 3 examples priced at $380 US on Newegg.com, and more than half a dozen examples under $410. So that means for the most part, the Radeon GPU can be acquired for a slightly lower price. And AMD's likely had to be a little more aggressive on pricing due to the stigma surrounding their drivers, and while there have been some stability issues, it seems as though AMD is mostly on top of the situation now, though it's hard for us to say given that we've never actually encountered any major issues. And driver development really has become a key focal point for AMD, and as I said earlier, with numerous updates over the past few months, it makes sense to revisit this comparison. So for testing, we have 35 games, and a handful of them weren't tested with previously, and as usual, we'll take a close look at the results for about a dozen of the games, and then we'll jump into a 35 game performance breakdown. All testing has been conducted using our Core i9 9900K GPU test system clocked at 5GHz with 16GB of DDR4 3400 memory. As for the resolutions, we're covering 1080p and 1440p, but the focus of this discussion will be on the 1440p data. Okay, let's get into the results. First up, we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and here the 5700 XT was almost 20% faster than the 2060 Super at 1440p. Despite that though, the Nvidia GPU did still deliver very acceptable performance, but for those of you rocking 144Hz monitors, the 5700 XT will be the better choice. It's also slightly cheaper, so an almost 20% increase in frame rate is a seriously big deal. Here we're testing out Ghost Recon Breakpoint using the new Vulkan implementation, and despite Turing's architectural improvements made from the previous generation, the 5700 XT was still 16% faster at 1440p. And this allowed the Radeon GPU to push past the 60 FPS barrier for what will be a slightly smoother experience. The Shadow of the Tomb Raider results see improvements from both GPUs since the original test. However, it's AMD that sees the biggest gains. At 1440p, the 5700 XT enjoyed a 12% boost, whereas the 2060 Super was just 4% faster. It's difficult to say without further testing if this is a result of driver updates or game optimizations, but either way, as it stands, the 5700 XT is now 13% faster on average at 1440p. Moving on to Gears 5, and here we find the Radeon GPU has a performance advantage at both tested resolutions, beating the 2060 Super by a 12% margin at 1440p, and this saw it maintain over 60 FPS for the entirety of the benchmark. Control is an Nvidia-sponsored title, and the Green team has done a lot of optimization work here, mostly to raise the bar for ray tracing performance. As a result, the 2060 Super is able to close in, but even so, the 5700 XT was still 8% faster at 1440p, and interestingly, even faster at 1080p, where the margin grew to 14%. Metro Exodus is another Nvidia-sponsored title that has again been heavily optimized for GeForce GPUs. However, AMD's also been able to optimize performance here, and as a result, the 5700 XT was 16% faster at 1440p, and this saw the Radeon GPU crack the 100 FPS barrier. Next up, we have the new Resident Evil 3 remake, and here the 5700 XT led by a 14% margin at 1440p and a slimmer 9% margin at 1080p. The Radeon GPU hit almost 100 FPS at 1440p, though I'm not sure how noticeable the difference will be for most gamers between the 5700 XT and the 2060 Super. Still, it is quite clear that AMD does offer the most bang for your buck in this title. Doom Eternal's another new game, and here we see some very even performance between these two $400 US GPUs. The 5700 XT came out a few frames ahead, but we're talking about less than a 3% difference here, so in other words, it's a tie. They both did average well over 100 FPS at 1440p, so performance overall was excellent. The super popular Fortnite is a bit of a struggle for the 5700 XT, at least relative to what we've seen so far. Overall, we're looking at the same gaming experience using either product, which is obviously still a great result for AMD given they both cost $400, but the Radeon GPU has also been up to 30% faster in other titles, so this is one of the weaker results, let's say. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds is another popular Battle Royale title, and while performance overall is very good from the 5700 XT, this is a rare instance where the 2060 Super gets the better of the testing. The end result sees the Radeon GPU defeated at 1440p by a 7% margin. Second last game tested is Borderlands 3, and firstly I'll just note that when compared to the original test 7 months ago, the 5700 XT has seen an 8% increase in performance, whereas the 2060 Super's performance has gone unchanged. So with the 5700 XT already enjoying a commanding lead in Borderlands 3, things have gotten even worse for Nvidia, as AMD's lead has now been blown out to a whopping 37% at 1440p. Last up, we have the Battlefield 5 results, and here the 5700 XT was 15% faster at 1440p, allowing the Radeon GPU to average 100 FPS. So another solid result for AMD, and I think it's time to check out the performance summary. As expected, the 5700 XT still looks to have the 2060 Super's number, and if anything, it is faring a little better today than it did 7 months ago. So let's move on to see if that is indeed the case. Oh, and remember, all the graphs are available for free on our Patreon account, so if you want to check any of the games out that we didn't just look at in detail, then you can grab that data over there. Links in the video description. At 1080p, the 5700 XT was 9% faster on average, enjoying its biggest win in Borderlands 3, while it also made out very well in Monster Hunter World, Metro Exodus, Dirt Rally 2, and half a dozen other titles. The only real upsets here for AMD included The Outer Worlds, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and Warhammer Vermintide 2. Humorously, Vermintide 2 is an AMD-sponsored title. Now, previously we found the 5700 XT was on average 10% faster at 1440p, and today we're finding basically the same thing. This time it's 8% faster. The main reason for that slight decrease is the removal of F1 2019, which did favour AMD quite heavily in the previous test. You might be wondering why I've removed F1 2019, and the reason is due to stability issues. The latest patch has caused the game to frequently crash, and performance appears to be a bit all over the place. So I'm really not sure what's going on there, but plenty of F1 fans are reporting random crashes to desktop, and I experienced this quite a bit when testing, and in the end I just gave up. The 5700 XT is still for the most part the superior performer, though I have to say the Borderlands 3 result is a bit curious. Not really sure what's going on there, but I did retest multiple times and got the same numbers. Beyond that though, we are looking at a strong performance advantage in a number of other titles, such as Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Call of Duty, For Honor, Monster Hunter World, World War Z, and, well, there are a number of other games as well. The list does go on, as you can see. Alright, so there's all the data. We did see some improvements to the 5700 XT, but overall the comparison looks, well, very similar to what we saw last year. Coming away from this matchup last year, I did say that had Nvidia introduced the 2060 Super at the same $350 US price point as the RTX 2060, it'd be a clear win for the green team. But unless the 2060 Super fulfills a specific need for you, you're just far better off with a 5700 series graphics card. And I think today that statement is as true as ever. Typically, the 5700 XT costs a little less, and it's still a little faster overall. And unlike some previous generation AMD graphics cards, Vega 56, Vega 64, there's no real weaknesses here with the 5700 XT. Efficiency is quite good, and both GPUs are supported by, well, a range of quality AIB graphics cards that run cool and quiet, and availability is currently excellent. What's changed since our last update is Nvidia's DLSS implementations. Previously, I mocked this technology. The implementations at the time were mostly terrible, and resolution scaling resulted in the same performance uplift with much better image quality. As a result, Nvidia gave up on their initial DLSS plans and started over, resulting in DLSS 2.0, and I believe Tim's in-depth image quality analysis videos were largely to thank for that. DLSS 2.0 is a significant improvement on where the technology started, mostly because it's not the same technology, but the point is it's finally what Nvidia promised. It's good, but we do need more games. At this point, we're talking about less than half a dozen games currently on the market. But it's worth noting as performance improvements are huge while maintaining comparable image quality. So while many of you probably think long-term the 5700 XT will age much better than the 2060 Super, that might not be the case if DLSS 2.0 game support dramatically improves in the future. I am far less sold on ray tracing support as being a useful feature in the future, but I'm more than happy to be wrong on that one. DLSS 2.0 on the other hand, it's already proven itself. Nvidia just needs to prove to customers that they can get it in more games, like a lot more games. Of course, if AMD can come up with their own DLSS-like technology, that could change everything, but so far that hasn't happened. Just getting on top of their driver bugs appears to have been a bit of a challenge, but thankfully they do now appear to be on top of that situation. As it stands today, the Radeon RX 5700 XT is the better performing product in almost every title out there, at least the titles where it matters. And by that I mean demanding games where a 10% or more performance boost can mean the difference between 60 plus FPS at 1440p or dipping below 60 FPS. It's also cheaper, so that's a big win for AMD. Overall though, both are really solid options and I don't think you can go particularly wrong either way, but for me, I would grab the 5700 XT every time, just because right now, I know it is faster in the vast majority of titles. And that is going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you do the YouTube-ish stuff. You're not YouTubers. Just do, the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, the stuff we always go on about. We've also got our Patreon account. As I said, the graphs are over there, but you can also look at signing up and supporting the channel and getting some pretty cool perks in return. Access to our exclusive Discord server where you can join the Hardware Unboxed community. Really awesome community there. A lot of fun place to be. We've also got our live streams. Again, the Hardware Unboxed Patreon community can watch that live, ask questions and interact with us there. It's a whole lot of fun. And yeah, we also have merch if you're interested. If not, that's fine. But above all else, I think the most important thing to say is thank you for watching. I'm your host, Steve. I'll see you again next time.